Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless on this election day, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, all the latest insanity for Election Day. Plus, is the New York Times trying to make white supremacists cool? But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
I'm looking at my son's ballot. And I know what a lot of you are going to say. You're going to say, Ari, why didn't you turn in your son's ballot? Well, my son is living in Israel right now, and he doesn't feel very passionately about a lot of the candidates in our area, and I thought voter fraud is bad. That's why I have it. Yes, I know what a lot of you do with your children who are away at college with their ballots. I'm not going to do that. But I am looking at my son's ballot here. Okay, if somebody loses by one vote, then you can blame me. I promise you can do that. But I think the biggest problem I have here is how many uncontested races there are. And there are uncontested races all over the state. And I think one of the biggest problems is that the GOP has bailed on King County. And I know there's a King County GOP, and I know they're trying their best. But this is a problem that predates the current leadership. You can't blame Jim Walsh for this. You can't blame Jolie Lansdowne. You can't blame any of them for this because this has been a problem that has been going on literally for what, 10, 15, 20 years? Where the GOP in Washington State has just said, we're going to give up on King County to focus on other places. I understand that in a war, you pick your battles, but if you surrender on too many battlefields, eventually you don't have any battlefields left. And I know that Washington is a big state, but you guys realize that by giving up on King County, by giving up on Seattle, that means you give up on Washington State for every presidential election. You get that, right? That means you give up on them for every Senate election, for any statewide race. You now automatically have tied two arms behind your back and one leg up when you're competing in any statewide race. Look at the results. Now, it's a difficult place to be when you're voting against something and not for something. A lot of you in Seattle today are voting against Katie Wilson. You're not excited about Bruce Harrell. A lot of people in New York are voting against Zoran Mamdani. You're not excited about Andrew Cuomo. As much as I want to put this on the local GOP, it looks like the Republican Party has a problem nationally. Because nationally, we're worried about a socialist takeover. And what's the only thing stopping the socialist takeover? Democrats we don't like who push socialist policies as far as they think they can before maybe some moderate Democrats or business groups or some PACs will say, no, that's too far for us. That's too far. That's a bridge too far. And unfortunately, that's what you're looking at across the state. I ask anybody, are there any races you're excited to vote in this election cycle? I'll tell you there's none on my ballot, but if I lived in Bellevue, I'd be excited to vote for Jared Neuenhuis. I really would be. I love Jared Neuenhuis, good personal friend, good guy, good politician, wants the best for everybody. That's a race I can look at. How many more can you name like that? Perhaps there's a few here and there. But right now we've become so used to, no, we're just voting against something, and that doesn't get people excited to go to the polls. That just gets people to go, is the meteor coming this year? I've got a poll up on my Twitter, at the Hoffather over on Twitter. It says, who are you voting for in the Seattle mayoral race? This is not scientific in any way, shape, or form because we have no idea if these people are actually from Seattle. But it's got Katie Wilson, Bruce Harrell, neither, and the Meteor. The Meteor is winning right now. This lines up with the last poll I did, where all I had was Bruce Harrell, Katie Wilson, and neither. And neither, I think, took 60% of the vote. Nobody wanted the other two. It's very disheartening. But this is the battle that's in front of us. This is what we have to face right now. And my message to you is, if you're frustrated with how your ballot looks, who are you going to go recruit to run for office? Are you going to step up to run for office? Because I'm tired of my ballot looking like this. I really, really am. There's nobody on this I'm excited about. I like Rachel Savage. I think she'd do an infinitely better job than Alexis Mercedes Rink, the socialist. I happen to like her. I could go through this entire ballot and tell you why these people are losing, some of whom we like, some of whom we dislike, but they're the more moderate option. But I'm drawn to Port of Seattle, Commissioner position number 3, Commissioner position number 4, both running unopposed, at least on my ballot. And as I'm going through this thing, you do realize that the people who show up who are excited to vote for a Katie Wilson are going to vote for every tax on this thing. The people who are excited to vote are going to vote for every lefty candidate because they're following the strangers' results. Most people I know just said, okay, we know we're voting for Bruce Harrell because we don't like Katie Wilson. Who are these other people? What do I vote for? I don't even know. I don't even care. And that is a huge, huge problem. Do you know how unqualified Katie Wilson is for this job? You shouldn't just vote against her because she's a socialist. You should know as much about her as possible. Do you remember the documentary Seattle is Dying that came out in 2018? In 2018, Eric Johnson over at Cuomo News, formerly Cuomo News, did this documentary, Seattle is Dying. And everybody thought it was going to move the needle for the 2019 city council elections because things here had gotten so bad. Remember, this is before COVID. Homelessness was out of control, drug use was everywhere, and everybody knew it. And what happened was, one of the centerpieces of the Seattle is Dying documentary was residents' reactions to how bad the homeless situation had gotten. And what happened was they showed up in Ballard for a town hall with then city council member Mike O'Brien. Mike O'Brien was this huge lefty, showed up with one of the pink hats for the Women's March. This is a guy, nothing was too left for him. Kshama Sawant was still on the council at the same time. You had a full-on lefty council, and people said, we need to change things. You know who else was on the council at the time? A guy named Bruce Harrell. So they have this meeting where they're considering the head tax. What was the head tax? A tax on high earners. Specifically, they were targeting Amazon and the tech sector because Kshama Sawant wanted them to. And what they wanted to do was use that money to go after the homeless problem. Well, what's fascinating to me is there was a dais inside a church in Ballard where they had set this whole thing up. And what happened was a whole bunch of residents showed up to scream and yell at the city council members saying, if you tax Amazon, they will leave. If you tax these corporations, they will leave. And you haven't been good stewards of our money so far. Why would you trust you with more? Because if you tax them and they leave, you're just going to pass those taxes on to us. This was hang on a second. This was more than 6. This was almost 7 years ago. This was, my God, it seems like yesterday. This was 7 years ago. Well, somebody sent me a tip, and they said, Ari, you got to look at Seattle is Dying and go to the section about the Ballard meeting because Katie Wilson is on stage, and she's the one who's presenting on the head tax and who's pushing the head tax. Somebody must have sent this same tip over to Jonathan Cho because he pulled up the entire meeting. He pulled up everything Katie Wilson said. Here's the clip from Seattle is Dying.
Last May 2nd at a town hall meeting in Ballard, simmering anger boiled over into all-out rage.
So why do we see so many people living outdoors?
Will you manage these camps and will you enforce the law?
There has evolved a profound disconnect, and rarely has it been more vividly laid out than in this exchange.
If property crime is committed, violence is committed, you need to call 911 and the police.
You've lost all credibility when you say You said 2 words. You said call 911. Do you understand that the police have told us to vote you all out so that they can do their jobs? And you're telling us to call 911? You're smiling. You think it's funny? You think it's funny the way we're living?
The way we're living in beautiful Seattle, people are angry.
That was the most anti-Seattle thing I've ever seen, because the reason this shocked everybody at the time, Seattle people are usually nice to your face and then they'll stab you in the back. I think that's the real Seattle freeze. I don't think the Seattle freeze is people don't talk to you. I don't agree with that at all. Everybody around here talks to me. And then I know what they say about me when I'm not around. Let's be real what the Seattle freeze is for a second here. What was shocking was how frustrated people were that they were flat out saying it and yelling and jeering, and justifiably so, because Ballard bore the brunt of this problem originally. That's how bad it got. So who was on stage? Katie Wilson during this Ballard town hall, presenting the head tax and why we should do it. Spoiler alert, she sounds exactly the same as she does today.
I'm going to start out by talking a little bit about the homelessness and housing crisis, which I hope is what has brought us all here tonight. So, as we all know, Seattle and King County are experiencing unprecedented levels of homelessness. Just in the city of Seattle, 3,857 people were living without shelter in 2017, last year. 73% of King County's homeless population lives within the city of Seattle. So why do we see so many people living outdoors? There are many layers of complexity to the homelessness crisis, but one thing is indisputable and fundamental. The shortage of affordable housing is a major driver of homelessness. And I'm going to repeat that because it's important. The shortage of affordable housing is a major driver of homelessness.
Not drugs, not alcohol, not substance abuse of any kind whatsoever, not mental health, not criminals living on the streets, not criminals using the homeless, not criminals hiding in homeless encampments. Affordable housing. This was 7 years ago. And since then, we have spent billions of dollars on so-called affordable housing. And the homelessness crisis, which isn't a homeless crisis, it's a taxpayer-funded incentive for drug addicts and criminals and mentally challenged people, has only gotten exponentially worse. It increased by 68% since 2020. Since 2015. Since 2015, it's increased by 68%. And the bulk of that increase was after what Katie Wilson said. She has been pushing this failed model for over 7 years, and now she wants to be mayor of Seattle. A lot of you have yelled at me, especially when you see me in person. Ari, how can you not endorse Bruce Harrell? Because he was part of the same council. He was part of the exact same council, and he pushes the same failed policy. And you might remember that he also supported the head tax, and it passed until all these businesses screamed and yelled at all of them, and then they repealed it just to pass it again later. Do I see a difference between Katie Wilson and Bruce Harrell? No. Vote for a pile of garbage or a pile of poo. Which one smells better? I couldn't tell you. Some of you go, well, at least Bruce Harrell's not a socialist. And I understand if you have that mentality, but can you show me one policy he's pushed which wasn't socialism? Can you show me one? Just one. Many of you out there are going to go vote for Bruce Harrell. And you know what? I don't fault you for doing so. The comments in my posts, in my election coverage, everything are always, I did, but I held my nose. I did, but I had to take a shower afterwards. I did, but I'm not happy with my life and I hate myself. I get all of it. I really, really do. I couldn't bring myself to actually do it. I couldn't. If he loses by 1 vote, you can blame me. You can actually, if it's 2, because I'm holding my son's ballot right here. You can blame me for those 2. You really can. But is it going to be a socialist blowout? The ballots drop at 8:05-ish tonight. At 8:05-ish, that's when you're going to find out who's winning, who's losing locally. We're going to cover the races all over the country as they come in tonight because polls are closing in New York, so we're going to find out about Mamdani. But I would put it to you that I don't think the Democrat Socialists of America are winning across the country or look poised to win across the country because so many people are supporting socialism, which many of our young people are. It's because so many people have given up the fight and said, we don't want to fight anymore. We don't want to run for office. We don't want to compete in some of these areas. Seattle, lost cause. New York, lost cause. California, lost cause. Chicago, lost cause. Minneapolis, lost cause. Guys, you keep doing that, you're going to end up like Washington State, where you have no more battlefields left. You know who's not doing that? And something that's really inspiring to me? Scott Presler. Scott Presler, very, 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 very tall man with very, 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 very long hair, is out in like a one-man show recruiting as many volunteers as he can to register as many people who haven't voted before. There's something fascinating. If New Jersey gets a Republican governor tonight, he owes that win to Scott Presler because Scott Presler is a master of going into communities that historically have not voted or have not been politically engaged and getting them out there. You know what's inevitably going to happen tomorrow? Mike knows this. Our phone lines are going to blow up when we give you the Seattle election results. And what are all of you going to say? Voter fraud, voter fraud, voter fraud, voter fraud. It's historically low turnout because nobody's excited about these candidates, especially not people on our side. This is when the DSA knows they can make wins. They don't compete in the big races on-year elections. They have said themselves they compete in off-year elections with low voter turnout. So by not even running candidates, we are giving up those positions to the Democratic Socialists of America, which means we are ceding ground to the DSA on a national level. And that's something we can't do anymore. That's something we can't do anymore. We need to step up. We need to get involved. If you are considering a run for office, you DM me, you email me, you be in touch with me, and I will give you all my advice for free. I will give you all the tips, all the trials, all the tribulations, all the things that are going to come at you, and I will save you a ton of money. I will do all that for free. But why can't you be Scott Presler? Why can't you go out and register voters? I have an event coming up in 2 weeks with Let's Go Washington. We're going to do an event with me out in Gig Harbor. I'll put out all the details as soon as it's all finalized so that you can sign the initiatives right now for Let's Go Washington to keep girls' sports for girls, not boys, to make sure that parents have the rights to know what's going on in education. We're going to do that. But I want to know how many of you are going to join me out there. I want to know how many of you are going to go out on your weekends, give up your Sundays to go do that kind of stuff, because that's the only way we affect change here. I don't believe that socialism is more popular than it was when Bernie Sanders was running in 2016. What I believe is we've given up too much ground in these blue states, especially after COVID, when so many people moved, and I understand why you moved. You've had enough, but the more ground you give up, the less battlefields we have to fight on. I understand if you're voting for Bruce Harrell. I get it. Believe me. My entire family disagrees with me on this. My wife, I think, supported him because she said, I can't have Katie Wilson. So many other members of my family said, can't have Katie Wilson, did that. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I understand if you are. But if you held your nose and voted for that because you said we have to hold the line here, believe me, I totally understand that. If you want to vent about it, you can give me a call. But I think the real problem is here. It's not enough to just vote anymore. You got to go out. You got to register voters. And there are so many tools to make it so easy for you to do so. You could be binge watching the latest show on Netflix, or you could be out there registering voters. So you don't have to worry if you can still afford Netflix. A lot of people are saying income tax isn't on the ballot this time. Of course it is. You have the Washington State Legislature where you can get a more moderate contingent there. Guys, if you have any questions about your ballots, you can call during the show today. We will talk about them. 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. But the most important thing today is that you get out there and vote. And tomorrow, what we have to do is start looking at 2026. We're a political show. That's what we do. You need to look to 2026 and you go, how can we fix all this? Because I know what's going to happen at 8 o'clock tonight. You know what's going to happen at 8 o'clock tonight when those ballots drop. And then you know what's going to happen tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and the day after at 4 o'clock, and the day after at 4 o'clock while Mike and I are covering these for you and make sure to bring you all the election results. You know what's going to happen. But then you need to ask yourself, what did I actually do this time aside from vote? It's not enough to just vote anymore because a lot of our friends moved out of state. A lot of our friends moved out of town. We need to step up. And one of the other things that the GOP is doing to stop you guys who are about to call in and say voter fraud, voter fraud, voter fraud, is to guarantee that we have voter ID for our ballots. That is something we need to do as well. This is all stuff that they can't do alone, that they need to do with your help, with our help. Are you going to help and make sure that happens so the next time I have my son's ballot sitting in front of me, hopefully he fills it out that time, the next time I have it sitting in front of me, I don't have all these uncontested races. And there's somebody on this ballot I actually want to be excited about voting for. That's what I hope. That is what I hope. When we come back, my friends, local crime. We know that everybody says, oh, crime's getting better. I don't believe it actually is. That plus more of your calls. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.
You are not alone. You have no idea how important you are. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance.
Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to download the KVI app. That is where we are running our latest contest, our latest giveaway. So that way you can go see an advanced screening of The Running Man with me, Mike, and Zach on November 10th at Pacific Place. That's 4 days before the movie even comes out in theaters. Make sure you download the KVI app right now. That way you never miss a minute of KVI. You can take us anywhere you go. Plus, you get to enter to win your pair of tickets on the app so that you can go see The Running Man, which will be in theaters on November 14th in Dolby Cinema, 4DX, Premium Large Format, and IMAX. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from Mario and Kent. Mario, what's up, man?
Hey, Ari, how you doing? You know, my friend, one thing that I think is very, very, very funny is like when these people like in Virginia, New Jersey, and New York talk about, well, the Republicans this, the Republicans that. Hey, and those aren't even swing states. Those are states that always vote Democratic. So I look at this race, this elections was for the Democrats to lose unless a lot of Republican people show up in those states, you know, during an off-year election. It's for them to lose. Unlike Florida, which is now no longer considered a swing state because there's several hundred thousands or 500,000 more registered Republicans than there are Democrats. And so I find that interesting. The other thing that I found interesting is they say, well, there's another city that looks to be electing a socialist mayor, and they were talking about Seattle, this Katie Wilson. I said, how far back have these folks have been? Seattle has been electing socialists since almost I've been here, and I got here in 2008.
Right. They've been when did they elect Kshama Sawant? What was that, 2012? 2013,
yeah.
Maybe even earlier, 2010. This is nothing new for us. We have survived this experiment, but the problem is nobody bothered to repeal her policies. So you elect Bruce Harrell on a more common sense thing. You elect a more common sense Seattle City Council. They're all still Democrats. Nothing changed. All we did was stop more new bad stuff. Mario, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. This text on the Warrior Injury Law text line from the 253, Ari, what would it take for a Washington State Electoral College? You're not going to like my answer. A statewide vote and a statewide win. Until we actually, here's one. Scott Pressler said he's coming here after he flips New Jersey. He's posted that on social media, and we need that. What about the Mennonite community? Are they out there voting? There's a ton of them right now. How about we get them out and voting? This one here from the 206. Oh, no, guys. I'm voting for Wilson because I want incompetence in City Hall. When the city works, it works against low-income residents. What? No! Do you understand that's bad for everybody? Okay, I may not like Bruce Harrell, but don't tell me you're voting for Katie Wilson. No. This one here from Art. Hey, Seattle, re-electing the same people that gave you the problem and expecting the problem to get fixed is like taking aspirin to cure cancer. Yes, exactly right. A little dark, but yes, that's correct. Katie Wilson said in that town hall back in 2018 exactly what her plan is to pay for all this affordable housing.
Y'all might feel that you're paying a lot of property taxes. It's true. It's true. You might have heard that Washington State has the most regressive tax system in the country, and that's true. You're paying too many taxes. And that's because we rely very heavily on property tax and sales tax, which tends to impact middle-class homeowners and poor people the hardest. And that means that we look for funding to address the homelessness and housing crisis. When we look for funding to address the homelessness and housing crisis, we keep coming back to property tax levies and regressive taxes. Well, we can't keep doing that. We can't keep doing that. So we need to start changing our tax system so that we can address the homelessness and housing crisis without putting additional burdens on the very people who need the most help. We have challenges, but we also have energy, we have compassion, and we have resolved to step up to those challenges. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Okay, so what was her solution there? Tax the rich. That was her thing. Tax Amazon. What did that get you? Amazon moved out of town. Congratulations. Amazon moved out of town. Other companies moved out of town too. And you guys kept raising the property taxes. And you guys kept raising the sales tax. Whenever they say, we're going to have an income tax, and this income tax, because our tax system is so regressive, this income tax is just going to be on the uber wealthy. Well, eventually the uber wealthy are going to leave. And then they're going to keep opening the threshold so it affects more and more and more people. And you think they're ever going to repeal any other tax? Of course not. This is what happens if you get a Katie Wilson. This is what happens if you keep a filibuster-proof majority for Democrats in the Washington state legislature. This is what you have to look forward to. If you have your ballot sitting there in your pile of mail, you have until 8 o'clock tonight to get that thing into a drop box. Do not mail it today. Get it to a drop box. Get it to a drop box. Robin Lakewood says, that's an old clip. Where are those protesters today? I know a bunch of people who were in that room. They moved. A bunch of people in that room moved. So they are counting. We are counting on you today to get your ballots in today. So I'll put this to anybody who is talking to me on the text line right now. Did you get your ballot in? Did you get your ballot in? Our friend Matt Gilbert says over on the text line, Kashama walked so Katie could run. So true. So true, Matt. And now people who are allies don't really seem like allies anymore. When we come back, my friends, Marjorie Taylor Greene went on The View. And to me, sounded like the absolute perfect Democrat. We'll have that insane audio for you when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. You know how I said I never liked Marjorie Taylor Greene, and a lot of people yelled at me and said, what do you mean? She's the most MAGA person ever. She went on The View today, and I don't care that she went on The View today. In fact, I like it when Republicans go on The View. I wish it happened more often. But it seemed like Marjorie Taylor Greene was more interested in getting the approval of the ladies on The View than actually pushing anything Republican. It seems like she's trying to just blame Republicans, which she's been doing for a couple weeks now, ever since the shutdown began. Here's what she said about President Trump and Republicans. Now, don't forget, this is the lady who wears all red, all MAGA at State of the Union to yell at Joe Biden, and then goes on The View and says this.
I hope that Mike Johnson is finally giving a single health care policy. I hope that Mike Johnson is finally giving a single health care policy because the country deserves it, and it shouldn't be a secret. And I shouldn't have to go into a skiff to go find our Republican health insurance plan.
Maybe
Honestly,
there is no plan.
You know what? You want to know something? That, I believe, is the truth. There's a lot of ideas, there's a lot of bills, but there's no consensus.
Yeah.
And I think that's a failure. I do.
Great. Where's your plan? Where's your plan? You are a lawmaker. Somebody has to sponsor it. Bring it to Johnson. If this is so important for you, rather than just complaining about it, where's your plan? Bring forward your plan to repeal Obamacare. Bring it forward. You have the House and the Senate right now. Probably won't pass the Senate because you don't have a filibuster-proof majority. Where is your plan? She spent the whole time blaming Republican leadership. And if you're saying there's no plan, now you're saying President Trump has no plan.
They say that you're slamming Republicans too much. Well, you're taking my job. You're slamming Republicans a lot on topics like health care, the Epstein files. We know he's still your favorite president. I mean, Truman is mine. I dated him.
But I did not date Donald Trump. But I do love him.
You do love him, yeah.
Yes, I did.
All right, well, whatever. So when was the last time you spoke to him? And what's with the tension between the two of you? You may love him, but he may not love you back right now.
Well, that's okay. I mean, Donald Trump, he usually yells at everybody, so we're all used to it. But he's the president of the United States, and here's something you all may not know about me. I think a lot of people on the left are learning that when I ran for Congress in 2020, I ran criticizing Republicans and Democrats equally, because I come from a working-class family, ran a construction company for over 20 years, and I feel like the government has failed all of us. And it purely disgusts me. It really does. And I represent a district that is rural, manufacturing district, blue-collar workers, and people have been crushed by decades of failure in Washington, D.C. And so I have no problem pointing fingers at everyone. And the worst thing that I just can't get over is we're not working right now. And I put that criticism directly on the Speaker of the House. And we should be at work. All the people sitting in this audience, they go to work every day. People at home watching this show, they go to work every day. Ladies, you go to work every day. The people on your set, and it is an embarrassment to me that we're not in session.
So don't blame the Democrats who are refusing to vote for a continuing resolution to fund the government. Blame the Speaker of the House who got it passed in the House. Not even the Senate Majority Leader. Not even the Senate Minority Leader. You're blaming the Republicans. Here's something else, Marjorie. Where's your plan? Where's your spending bill? She's no different from AOC. They're two sides of the same coin. Have you ever seen Marjorie Taylor Greene's name on any legislation whatsoever? Have you ever seen AOC's name on any legislation whatsoever? It is a lot easier to hurl rocks at a glass house than say, how are we going to fix this glass house? That's the problem with this. You want to go on The View and make best friends with them? Fine. I don't care. Where's your plan? In fact, it got so bad they asked her if she wanted to become a Democrat.
Well, I want to talk about MAGA voters who believed that the president made promises like lowering grocery prices on day one. Right now, grocery prices, inflation is up, soybean and cattle farmers are on the verge of bankruptcy. Millions have lost their food stamps and are about to lose their health care, while we're watching 40 million $40 billion to bail out Argentina. What is going on?
I don't know. I am so America first. I feel like I live it and breathe it. And that's my district, and that's what people want. They are so tired of their hard-earned tax dollars being sent overseas to foreign wars and foreign aid and foreign causes, while life in America just becomes more and more unaffordable. We want this money invested at home for our infrastructure, for programs, for our people, and most importantly, for my children's generation and their children and their children and generations to come. And I have to say, that's what I've campaigned on the entire time. Everybody's like, Marjorie Taylor Greene has changed. And I'm like, oh, no, nothing has changed about me. I am staying absolutely 100% true to the people that voted for me and true to my district. And I am so angry when I drive around my district to all these beautiful little rural small towns. And there's manufacturing plants that are crumbling from decades of lost industry. Small businesses that got shuttered during COVID lockdowns and COVID shutdowns. And you want to know something else, Whoopi? So many veterans that went over and had to fight in some war that really had nothing to do with where they were from or their hometown, and their lives and families' lives have been so affected. So for me, I am unapologetically America first, and I'll do anything I can to work hard to save
Maybe you
this
should become
country.
a Democrat, Marjorie.
No, I'm not a Democrat.
I ask again, where's your bill? Where's your idea? Somebody who's proposed bills, take somebody like Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz, when he's doing interviews like this, he'll say, and that's why I proposed resolution blah, 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 the so-called blah, 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 which did this, and the Democrats rejected it. Marjorie Taylor Greene can't say that because she'd rather blame everybody else and be like, I am the true virtue signaling artist. And it's working with Democrats where they say, now we love Marjorie Taylor Greene, where 5 minutes ago they couldn't stand her. Speaking of which, we go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line, take a call from my good friend, Alma. Alma, my darling, how are you on this election day? Did you get out and vote today?
Oh, yes, you know I did. And my love, I'm just loving it. I'm eating it up today. I get a reprieve of the way I've been feeling. But you know what? I love the honesty that Marjorie Taylor Greene is bringing forth. A lot of more Republicans would vote their heart and not for Trump. This world would be a better place. She talk about factories closing. No, I don't know. I would vote for I would vote for a Republican if they had a heart almost like hers.
Well, I'll tell you the thing is that Alma, would you have said this before any of the clips I played?
Yeah, well, when she was going through all that stuff she was going through, no.
Okay. All right. So, Alma, then she achieved her goal, which is getting people like you, because you know what? Even Republicans are talking about primarying her. So she's trying to do a thing where she appeals to some Democrats, moderates her message a little bit, and manages to draw them in. Alma, wishing you only good health, my darling. Thank you so much for the call.
She got my vote. She got my vote.
Seems like she accomplished her goal then, Alma. Appreciate the call, as always. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, speaking of people on the right pretending to be on the right, actually being on the left, the New York Times is now out there shilling for Nick Fuentes. I kid you not. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. We've been talking for the better part of 2 weeks about the GOP civil war, but now the New York Times has given away the game. And the New York Times is showing this is just a ploy to divide all of us when MAGA has managed to do every 80-20 issue and put the Democrats on the wrong side of it. This is their way back. How do I know this? Here's what the New York Times had today. Ready? It says, Nick Fuentes was Charlie Kirk's bitter enemy. Now he's becoming his successor. Are you kidding me? Now, before we analyze that headline for a second, the picture itself is a black and white picture of Nick Fuentes that makes him look like James Dean. This is an incel dork who really just spouts nonsense from his basement, and they made him look pretty cool with this picture. This same New York Times photographer, though, likes to work in black and white. And what's amazing is every single other Republican, Ashley Ridsberg, did a whole collage of this guy's work. Every single Republican or Democrat who's too moderate for this New York Times photographer's taste, they make them look like they're out of an Ed Wood movie. You look at this picture here of Kash Patel. Looks like the dude is considering ways to blow you up over some kind of fire he's praying at. You look at this RFK Jr. picture, looks like he's sitting there coming up with the plans for the atomic bomb or something. Eric Adams looks like he's shady and corrupt just from the shading of the picture they did with this. But Nick Fuentes, they make cool. Was this a middle schooler who figured out the black and white filter on their camera phone or something? But it is clear that this is an intent by the left to divide the right because they can't win on the issue. So how can we divide the big tent, which is MAGA? You're saying that Nick Fuentes, the guy who's anti-Jewish, anti-conservative, anti-black, anti-Hispanic, anti-women, anti-Trump, he endorsed Kamala in the last election, that guy is America first. That guy's going to take over Turning Point USA. Charlie Kirk threw Groypers out of line. I never saw Charlie Kirk get angry, except for when he's talking to them. I never saw it. But that's what he did. He would literally throw them out of line. Don't believe me? Give a listen.
I want to ask a question of you. What does it mean to be an American? Is it an idea or a history, a shared history, or is it a skin color?
Well, I mean, you could go back to the original founding fathers, the Immigration Act of, I believe it was.
What does it mean to be an American? Is it a skin color or something else?
So there's the current idea of what it means according to, the Hart-Celler Immigration Act and, all this bullshit that you guys spew. But if you go back to the original founding fathers, they intended this to be a European nation for white men of good stock and character. Yeah.
So, can you show me? Let me answer the question. Can you show me where in the United States Constitution it says that?
It wasn't in the Constitution.
It wasn't in the Constitution because they didn't believe it.
The founding.
You, sir, they did not put it in the United States Constitution. Let me answer another question. Let me ask you another question since you support. Allow him to have the mic. Let me ask you another question,
founding
sir.
Fathers wrote many
what
other
does the
documents
phrase,
other than the United
sir,
States Constitution, and they made it explicitly clear that
what does the phrase "e pluribus unum" mean? What does the phrase "e pluribus unum" mean?
Why is that relevant?
Because it was on every founding document and presidential seal from our founding, which means out of many, one. You, sir, and your ideology is not conservative. It is right-wing, identitarian, and has no place in the conservative movement, my friend. Get out of line. Get out of line.
Listen to the crowd cheer, and I've never heard Charlie Kirk throw anybody out of line before. That is how opposed to this ideology he was, and now the New York Times is saying the people who push that ideology are his successor?
Yeah, no hat for that guy.
No hat for that. That guy does not get a hat. Tell me again how this isn't an attempt to divide the right. That's clearly what this is. And now the New York Times just gave away the game, my friends. When we come back, more election races that we are following, how you should be filling out your ballot, what we're keeping an eye on. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app on this election day. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, it turns out Mike's hunch was right about those unlicensed food trucks. And if it's illegal for illegals to be on Snap, why are so illegals illegally on Snap? Questions for the ages. But before we get to any of that, I got this text on the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. It says, Bellevue City Council, Jared Neuenhouse, Paul Clark, and Conrad Lee are running, and they each have a socialist opponent. These three, Jared Neuenhouse, Paul Clark, and Conrad Lee, must win. I agree, by the way. I completely agree. If you don't want Bellevue turning into Seattle, you got to keep these guys on the council. People who say there's nothing to get excited about in this election, here is something to get excited about. It's not that you're just stopping the socialists. I happen to know Jared Neuenhouse. I happen to know Conrad Lee. They're both good guys. I don't know Paul Clark well, but the other two vouch for him, and I value their opinions. If you live in Bellevue, if you have not filled out your ballot, I need you to get it and fill it out for Jared Neuenhouse, Paul Clark, and Conrad Lee. I need you to do that because you got to keep those guys in office if you don't want your Bellevue becoming Seattle. The Seattle Times has been doing this thing trying to equate Seattle and Bellevue all the time, and they need to stop it. There is no comparison between the two cities. When my wife and I go out for a night in Bellevue, so nice, so clean. It's the way Seattle used to be. Unfortunately, Seattle has been so badly run for years. Hey, Bellevue, if you want to be Seattle, then vote for the socialists, and you'll see how bad it can get. You think Amazon isn't already considering leaving Washington State through attrition? Why do you think you're seeing so many layoffs all the time? You want to make it worse? You want all these other companies to leave too? Then vote for the socialists. Do not vote for the socialists. Make sure you vote for Jared Neuenhouse, Paul Clark, and Conrad Lee. Let's go over a few other things that are on your ballot. Senate Joint Resolution 8201. The legislature has proposed a constitutional amendment on allowing money in Washington's long-term care fund to be invested. This amendment would allow the state fund dedicated to providing long-term care benefits for eligible seniors and people with disabilities to be invested as authorized by law. Should this constitutional amendment be approved or rejected? I said rejected. I know a lot of people in the Republican world say, Ari, this is a bipartisan fix for the failed Long-Term Care Act. Let's go back in time for a second. Jay Inslee and the Democrats had a money grab. They said, hey, Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare, they're not lock boxes, to quote Al Gore. How about we make our own worse version, take all the worst ideas of all of this, and take the money out of the payroll so we can use it for other things? That's what they did. This thing was insolvent from the day they passed it. Why should we save it? You're going to trust the people who did this to invest your money wisely for you in the stock market? If these people were in charge of the Sahara Desert, they would run out of sand. Now you want them to trust them with the stock market? No. Force it to fail and force them to give you your money and force them to repeal this stupidity. Do not vote to save it. I know some Republicans are like, well, this is a great option. No, this is a terrible option. And I disagree with my Republican friends. I really, really do. This one here, King County Proposition number 1, Medic 1, Emergency Medical Services Replacement of Existing Levy. No. You know why I say no? How much money are you guys spending on Homeless Inc. to make the problem worse? Live within your means because all of us have to do that. Live within your means. And I know it's for first responders. No. Sorry, guys, you have plenty of money. You don't need more of mine. You are spending tons of my money already on giving out crack pipes to drug addicts. And now you want me to pay for the health care for the drug addicts you gave the crack pipe to? No.
How about no?
Exactly. Dr. Evil understands. So you're going to say, oh, Ari's not voting for the firefighters and the medics. You're damn right, because that money should be coming out of the money you're giving to cause more cases for the firefighters and the medics. No, absolutely not. Unfortunately, King County has never found a tax they didn't like. So, what else we got here? Oh,
yeah,
go ahead,
I mean that's basically my philosophy. We talked about this last week, Ari, when we were talking about some of our propagandas that we got in the mail, and anything that is a proposition or any kind of levy, no,
absolutely not.
Reject all across the board. Because Turd Ferguson and all of his friends just passed the largest tax package in state history. I'm not giving them any more. Sorry.
And here's something else. Remember,
and it's usually stuff I kind of believe in. And I'm like, not this time.
Exactly.
Not this time.
And if Mike is fired up, by the way, I don't think I've ever seen Mike this fired up about this kind of stuff. If you've lost Mike, you've lost the audience. But here's something else, Mike. Remember we did this story? After Washington State Legislature passed these taxes, and after Turd Ferguson signed the largest tax increase in Washington State history, what did the interim King County executive do? Let's do the same thing. What did Seattle do? Let's do the same thing. If you're up to your eyeballs in debt, do you open another credit card? No. If you're up to your eyeballs in debt, do you start spending more money? No. Absolutely not. City of Seattle, Proposition number 1, Families, Education, Preschool, and Promise Levy. The Seattle City Council adopted ordinance number 127238 concerning replacing an expiring levy to fund education support services. The City of Seattle's Proposition 1 would replace an expiring levy funding childcare and preschool, academic health and safety support for K through 12 students, college and job readiness, and other supports as provided by the ordinance. It authorizes a 6-year levy for collections beginning in 2026 of an additional 72 cents on every $1,000 of assessed value for a maximum total rate of $3.02. They make it sound like it's nothing, right? Well, all them $3.02 they tax you has added up to a ton of money I'm getting taxed in property taxes, and our scores have only declined. Maybe stop spending the money on DEI. Maybe stop spending the money on critical race theory. Maybe stop spending the money on trans education. And then maybe you'll have the money for important programs like this. Here's something else. On the evaluation of the levy last time, because this is a renewal of a tax that was there beforehand, on the evaluation, they couldn't show any real improvement from last time. In fact, it showed they couldn't account for it, and they needed to do a better job of overseeing where the funds are going. They admit that in their own report evaluation on this tax. It should be, we're going to take a break from this tax for a while so we can assure where the money's going because we want to be good stewards of your taxpayer dollars. No. In fact, this is a story I told you guys a couple weeks ago. King County Elections came to me, said, Ari, nobody from the GOP showed up to oppose this thing. Can you write the opposition statement? Absolutely. The stranger reaches out. The stranger has me in for an endorsement meeting about this tax. No matter what the other side said, I kept coming back with your own report. Your own report says the money was not managed effectively, and there was no increase in performance of the students. There's nothing else to discuss. I had a communications teacher. He was a speech teacher. He was also my drama director. And the final in the intro to speech class was you had to have a debate on a topic that was assigned, and you had to win that debate. Well, you didn't get graded based on if you won or not. You got graded based on your performance. And basically, the nuclear bomb was, in your thesis, you had to explain why the position had to be changed or keep the status quo, right? You could do point of orders for this, and I will never forget my first debate. I forget what it was about, but I don't forget what happened. I don't remember what political topic somebody picked that I didn't know anything about. I was counting on winning because I know communications, and I knew nothing about politics at the time. Mike's going to laugh about this. I don't remember if it was about abortion or global warming or something like that, but I was on the opposition side. Shock, shock. They flipped a coin. You had to prep both sides, and then they flip a coin, and you have to argue it on the spot. So you have to prep both sides and know both arguments. And I remember I'm standing there on the opposition side, and the pro side got to go first, And after they were done, I raised my hand and I said, point of order. And the professor looked at me and the other side looked at me in absolute terror. I wasn't the radio host back then. And I said, the other side did not say why you have to change the status quo. And the professor goes, Hoffman's right. Debate's over. He wins. That was it. That was it. Done. Finished. You guys have not convinced me. You have been good stewards for our money. Show me the numbers. Your own report says you have not been good stewards for this money. You want to know how I know I'm right? You got to look at the Stranger's write-up of their endorsement of this thing. They even say there are problems with the The Seattle Stranger says there are problems with the oversight of the money, but they just love the idea of taxes. They want to tax you more. That's what the Seattle Stranger is, literally Prince John in the Robin Hood movie, sitting there with all them coins, right? Just sitting there with all the coins.
Taxes, beautiful, lovely, taxes,
Exactly. Thank you, Mike, for finding that, because I couldn't on the fly. Thank you for that. That's literally what they are doing. The Stranger admits that the program didn't work, but give us the money anyway, because the Strangers never met a tax they didn't like, our far-left progressive rag. Wow, Mike, I guess I won that debate, didn't I? Because they even acknowledged that in there. Even acknowledged it in there, even with all their shenanigans. By the way, should I mention that one of the people I was debating in this endorsement meeting was Joe Mizrahi, who's running for the school board in Seattle and couldn't defend the tax that they want for the schools in Seattle effectively? I love how these Jewish groups endorse Joe Mizrahi just because he's Jewish. And a bunch of Republican groups endorsed him because he goes, he's the least worst option. He's the one advocating for the stupid tax. No, I'm not voting for Joe Mizrahi. I don't care what his last name is. I don't care if his last name is Hoffman. All right, here's the other one. Seattle City Council adopted ordinance number 127259 concerning changes to the business and occupation tax. The City of Seattle's Proposition 2 would increase business and occupation tax rates currently at 0.0222 and 0.0427 to 0.00342 and 0.0658, respectively, until 2033, when respective rates would even more go up. The increase would support the city's general fund for programs and services described in Section 10 of Ordinance. The proposition would also raise the threshold for paying taxes. So this is just a tax increase, is all this is? I know people in the business community are like, well, wait a minute. It helps out the small businesses by raising taxes on the big business. Stop it. Stop it. That doesn't help anybody. You know what that's like saying? We're raising taxes on Disney, so we don't have to raise taxes on the little guys. You know, there's little guys who supply Disney. And then Disney has to charge more, and then they sell less, I don't know, Buzz Lightyear helmets. And because they're selling less Buzz Lightyear helmets, you're making less of them for Disney, whatever company makes that stuff for Disney. Do you remember during the pandemic, Disney sent this thing to Gavin Newsom? You have to let us reopen Disneyland because all the vendors that provide stuff to us are going out of business because you're keeping us closed. That's what this tax is. Oh, they claim it's only on big business. Spare me, it is not. Okay. King County executive. You've got Gourmet Zahalai and Claudia Balducci. I don't see a difference. I do not see a difference. Now, mind you, if you have to hold your nose and vote for one of these candidates, you're going to vote for Claudia Balducci. But I do not see a difference between these two. They are both terrible. They are both currently King County council members, and they are both responsible for the mess that King County is in. So tell me again why we should elect either of these people to replace Dow Constantine when they did everything Dow Constantine wanted. Gourmet is a little bit more radical, but the truth is they're both radicals. Mike, this is weird. Remember I told you the story about the fundraising dinner I went to where Reuben Carlisle got in my way of my lamb burger and my old-fashioned, and I was really mad about that, and I just tried to decide to bash him and his climate commitment tax on that minute where he came up to me and got in my way for my lamb burger? Well, I went to the kitchen because I look at the table I'm sitting at, and they put me with the political people. Who are the political people in Washington State? All the political people at this dinner are Democrats. And I'm looking around the table going, oh, I'm screwed. I'm so screwed. Luckily, Izzy, my son, was working in the kitchen. And I go to look for him, and I say to somebody, hey, anybody got a plate of extra hors d'oeuvres sitting around? And I come over to the table, and I bring the plate of hors d'oeuvres, and I could tell who was going to be fun to talk to based on who took my hors d'oeuvres and who wouldn't take my hors d'oeuvres. Most of them didn't take the hors d'oeuvres. That's a different story. But Gourmet Zahalai came wandering over to the table. Ari, how you doing? What's going on here? You know who I am. I know who you are. You know what I say, and you're being my best what is... Oh, you must be up for election. That's what's going on here. I do not trust this guy farther than I can throw him. I do not at all. Mind you, no matter who wins, King County loses in this election. I have no faith in either one of these people, but if you're looking for the least of two bad options, you want Claudia Balducci, and that is the problem with this entire ballot. The problem with this entire ballot, it's what's the least worst of the two options. When you have the King County GOP going, here's the least worst option, and they're both Democrats, you have a major problem. Okay, let's go through some other Seattle races here. Seattle City Attorney, Ann Davidson or Erica Evans. So Ann Davidson kind of did this to herself. The problem is you had a lot of people on the law and order side who supported you last time, and just like Bruce Harrell, you're running to the left, thinking that's going to beat an actual progressive in Erica Evans. And in the process, you've also said, I'm taking on the Trump administration. Well, that doesn't really work when the Trump administration is going after illegal alien criminals, and you're saying you're going to fight him on it, and your whole thing was running on the law and order candidacy. And here's something else. The left was smart this time. Do you remember who Ann Davidson ran against last time? Nicole Thomas Kennedy, the Antifa-supporting lunatic. Well, you don't have that this time. Instead, they got somebody who looks polished, who looks professional, who looks put together, and isn't spewing the radical crazy. Now, mind you, is she a radical crazy? Abso-flippin-lutely. But she doesn't come off as radical crazy. And Ann is coming off as bipolar. Because the problem is she's supporting these things on one side. Look at her social media posts. They go back and forth between which side. There is no rhyme or reason. Whoever ran Ann Davidson's campaign should never be hired to run a campaign ever again. For that matter, whoever ran Bruce Harrell's campaign should never be hired to run a campaign ever again. Tomorrow, if both of them lose, if one of them loses, I am going to do a full autopsy of why they lost and show you how these people should never have a job in politics ever again who ran their campaigns.
I only wish that our friend Ann Davidson had listened to the advice of Mr. Miyagi.
Walk on the road. Walk right side, safe. Walk left side, safe. Walk middle. Sooner or later, get the squish, just like grape. Here, karate, same thing. Either you karate do yes, or karate do no. You karate do guess so. Just like grape.
Excellent point, Mike.
Just like Ann Davidson.
Just like Ann Davidson. Mr. Miyagi, famed political consultant. I think I like him better than Vanilla Ice when we play him. 100% correct. Now, I'll tell you something else. I'm going to throw out this offer again. The best thing for me in my life was losing an election when I ran for office because I learned how to lose an election and how not to make those mistakes again. But something else is that now I can give all that advice to all of you for free without you wasting your money on political consultants. Some people have listened to me, and some people I help behind the scenes. And guess what? I've got a pretty good track record. I've got a pretty good track record of telling these people if they're going to win or if they're going to lose. And you know what? It's not because I have a horse in the race. It's because I can see the same signs of stuff happening all the time. I am offering my help for free to anybody who wants to run for office. Contact me, arikvi.com. We will help you out because I am tired of lousy candidates, and I'm tired of candidates that we once thought were great, like Ann, trying to become so left in the desperation to hold on to office. Ann likes running for office. She ran for a lieutenant governor. She ran for Seattle City Council. Then she ran for this, and she finally won. But as opposed to trying to keep her job, she was worried about keeping her job. As opposed to doing her job, she was so busy trying to keep her job. That's the problem.
And immediately ditched her friends.
Exactly. And that's that. And that's that. Basic thing. I know you have to do bad cases for the mayor in the city of Seattle. Don't be the one out there behind him. Send a staffer. You've got people who work in that office. Send a staffer. Easy thing right there. You could have avoided all the ICE stuff. But instead, you're trying to appeal to the left. And that's not how you're going to win this election, because progressives will never choose somebody they view as a Republican over a true progressive.
Exactly. However left you try to go, you can't be left enough. When Hannah Krieg is out there calling you a MAGA Republican, you're sunk.
Hannah Krieg, the burner. I feel like I'm going to get something just from reading
You
that.
brought her. You burned her. Gross. Gross.
Everything, just everything's gross. Exactly, burning. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, Mike's theory on those food carts around the stadiums was 100% correct. We'll tell you what it was, and shockingly, who proved it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to download our app so that way you can participate in our latest giveaway to get 2 tickets to an advanced screening of The Running Man with me, Mike, and Zach on November 10th, 4 days before the movie comes out on November 14th in theaters, Dolby Cinema, 4DX, Premium Large Format, and IMAX. So, Vanilla Ice is here to talk about ICE and the latest ICE enforcement that should, or what ICE should be targeting with enforcement. I will take you back 2 weeks ago to when Mike and I went to Monday Night Football with the Seattle Seahawks. Thank you, Mike.
We're back.
Okay. So what happens? We go to the game. We had a bet going about how many street vendors we were going to see because it was during the Mariners playoff run to the wish it was the World Series, but they were going that way, and all these street vendors were out there, and every story on every local news channel was about the illegal street vendors. Now, none of them were mentioning the ICE angle at all. They were just talking about how they were illegal street vendors, not illegal aliens on top of that. I want to remind you what it was like when we had only found 3 on the way in. I think our bet was 7 to 10. Mike said 7, I said 10 without going over. And this is what we found coming out of the Seahawks game after the playoff game was over and after the Seahawks game was over.
You know, Ari, had I realized that we were going to be playing this clip in eternity, I probably would have chosen my words a little better. I had so many stadium sodas.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Lots of pretzels, lots of sodas, we had a great time at the game. We had a really good time at the game.
It was a great time.
We had a great time. Here's what we saw on the way out of the stadium. Yeah, next time we do that, Mike, you know we missed our opportunity on? We didn't do any man-on-the-street interviews. You know what we missed our chance to? We should have gone up to them and said, yeah, I'd like a slice of pizza from the hot dog guy and just watch them stare at us because they don't know what pizza is, right? Something like, we should have had a little bit more fun.
No habla?
No habla, exactly. Now,
it'd be a lot better. And that dude almost got me with this clacking of his tongues there.
Yes,
I'd forgotten about that, too.
You hear them.
I mean, it's almost like the card slapper guys for like the strippy joints in Vegas, where it's like,
oh, they just
it's
flip
like
them at
slap,
you.
slap. I think he was trying to entice me by clacking his tongues.
Dude, all that stuff smelled
illegal
delicious.
tongues.
Illegal tongues. All that stuff smelled delicious. I wanted them hot dogs, and I can't have any of that. So anyway, Mike made a good point. Mike made the point that it seems like they're getting rid of all the legal citizens who are illegal street vendors, but not enforcing the law on any of the illegal aliens. Well, Mike may have been the first one to pick that up, and we discussed going down, but there hasn't been a major sporting event we could go to since then when we were going to go interview these guys. King 5 went out and found some of the legal vendors, because my guess is King County Health, when they put out that report, we shut down all these street vendors, shut them all down. Look at the amazing thing we did. Mike and I said, if you shut them all down, why are they all still there? So King 5 went out and spoke to some of the legal vendors in town, because my guess is King County Health didn't get back to them either. Hang on. Lack the address for the civil fine. Huh. Why don't they have an address? You know what you should do when you have somebody who you don't have a business license for? Let me see some ID. Oh, wait. They're not allowed to do that either.
Yeah, checking ID is racist.
It's super racist, according to King County. So if they're not checking the ID and they're not checking the business license, wait, isn't a business license a form of ID? So you're being racist to the vendors that are there legally as well? The easiest solution to this is, let me see your ID, and that's where we're going to mail your fine. But if you don't have ID, which there's no excuse for, because here illegal aliens can get driver's licenses as well. But if there's no ID at all, then what you're saying without saying, King 5, is that these are illegal aliens. and that King County isn't enforcing the law on the illegal alien street vendors. They're only enforcing it on the U.S. citizen who are illegal street vendors. Don't get me wrong. Both shouldn't be doing it. But at the same time, you guys are not applying the law evenly. And you know what I actually recommend? If any of the illegal U.S. citizens, let me rephrase that. Any U.S. citizens who are running illegal street food operations, you should sue King County. You should sue King County right now, and you should bring us the story. I know some pro bono attorneys who would have a field day with this because it's not equal protection under the law. It's not equal application of the law. And be fascinating to me because, Mike, you noticed something else too. You noticed that most of the U.S. citizen illegal street vendors were people of color, people who were black, and those were the ones they shut down. But they didn't shut down the Hispanic, I assume, illegal aliens who are illegally operating the food vendor thing. You know, it's amazing to me, Mike, that the entire Seattle media was covering the story, and not one of them, not one, discussed the illegal alien aspect of the story. That's intentional.
Well, and we had even mentioned that at the time, and I want to give credit to King 5 because I was giving them a really hard time at the time, like we went to the football game. It's like, oh man, they're really cracking down, as they must have seen our video, presumably. But good for them for at least doing some follow-up and talking to legal permitted vendors. Sure. They didn't have to do that. They're the only outlet in town that is keeping up on the story from that angle. But you're absolutely right. I mean, like, we've covered this story so often, Ari, that folks sent me on the text line. It's like, oh man, I'm getting tired of all these repeats. I'm like, it's a new segment because it keeps happening. But the point being is that this isn't about unpermitted hot dog vendors anymore. Sure, that's an aspect of it, but that's just the thing to give us the lulls and to like laugh at it and stuff. This underscores Seattle's sanctuary policies and protecting illegals. This is an immigration issue. This isn't about nasty hot dogs anymore.
Exactly. And here's something else, Mike. Sex offenders, certain types of felons can't go near places where kids might be. You have no idea who those food vendors are. You have no idea. And you're putting stuff in your body from those food vendors. Just putting that out there for a second. Plus, I remember the place where I went to college, there was an ice cream truck that wasn't selling ice cream at 3 o'clock in the morning in my neighborhood. What else are those food vendors selling? These are a lot of questions that are unanswered because King County is not enforcing the law equally. And they are giving preferential treatment to people who are in this country, I assume, illegally. Lots more to discuss as the show continues, my friends. When we come back, if it's illegal for illegals to be on Snap, why are so many illegals illegally on Snap? We'll talk about it when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to download the KVI app so you can enter to win in our latest contest and win two tickets to see an advanced screening of The Running Man with me, Mike, and Zach on November 10th at Pacific Place. That's right, you get to see it before it opens in theaters on November 14th. So you can check out The Running Man with Glenn Powell with us. Yes, it's a remake of the Schwarzenegger movie. Yes, it's the remake I've been asking for. I just hope it lives up to expectations. You get to find out with us, and you get to hear Mike's running commentary. It's like Mystery Science Theater 3000 when Mike goes to a movie. You're going to love it. It'll be a lot of fun.
I'm super stoked for this one. I mean, again, for all the reasons that you said, Ari, but I'm a huge fan of director Edgar Wright, who did Baby Driver and Shaun of the Dead, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. I think the trailers seem to underscore, I think, an element of this movie that's going to surprise people. Keep your eye out for the sound design and for the music selections. I'm really looking forward to it.
I will second that. I'm going to say something heretical right now, which my brother yells at me about when I say it. I might be the only person who didn't like Scott Pilgrim versus the World. The reason I didn't like it was a little different. I thought it was brilliant, and I hated it at the same time. Can you appreciate that?
That's fair, because it's a savory spice, and it's not for everybody.
Yes.
It's the definition of a cult classic because it didn't do well at the box office, and audiences at the time didn't really know what to do with it, but it aged well on home video and streaming, and now folks are going back and rediscovering it as kind of like a cult classic, secret masterpiece type of thing.
Now, I wonder if it's due for a rewatch. I watched it once, and you know me. When I watch a movie once, I sometimes have some interesting takes, and that was years ago. It might be due for a rewatch. Baby Driver. Did not like that movie. Saw the brilliance in the directing. Yet another one. I just didn't like the plot. That's different. I know I hated that movie, but it was brilliantly directed. So now I'm curious about this because I see the direction is a huge part of this, and I'm kind of interested in the plot. So I wonder if this is the perfect formula for me finally with this director. That might be the case.
I'm going to stick my neck all the way out there. I think they're hiding something of this movie. Either they're hiding it because it doesn't play well and they're hoping we don't notice, or it's going to be a genuine surprise.
Dude, if Fireball or Dynamo comes out of the ceiling at some point, I'm just going to cheer in front of the whole stadium. Yes, finally, Dynamo! Anyway, we go to the Warrior Injury Law text line, and you guys have some great takes today. Absolutely great takes. This one from the 206. The city of Linwood mayor and council election is a pretty big deal locally for Linwood residents as the city faces multi-million-dollar budget deficits. There are a couple of council candidates that are controversial, such as Josh Binda. That's right. Okay, so that's a race we haven't been following so much. I'll make sure to put that on my list for tonight so we can do some analysis, and maybe I'll reach out to Mario from the Linwood Times, have him on tomorrow to discuss the Linwood races. That's a great, great, great idea.
Oh, that's way overdue. Yeah, we got to reach out to that.
We haven't had him on in forever. So this one here, great program, Ari, 100% agree with your vote. Ari, that one is from the 206. This one from John in Auburn. Oh, I love it. Mike, you're going to love this one. Ari, I think it's time for a How About No initiative that encompasses all the wrong things the Democrats push.
How about no? Or more accurately,
yes.
You know what the problem is? It violates the single subject rule. I think we should just start a pack, Mike. The How About No pack. That's what it should be. How about no? Right? Let's rename Let's Go Washington. How about no? And we just pass initiative after initiative after initiative that just says no on everything. The How About No pack.
Yeah, vote yes, pay less is out. Now it's all just about
how about no?
How about no? How about no?
You know what the problem is? Turd Ferguson and Nick Brown are going to go, oh, you know what we're going to do?
Ferguson.
Exactly. We're going to make them vote yes to pay less. Like they're going to do that nonsense again for our How About No pack.
It's going to be like the 2-button meme where it's like, which one do I press?
Right. How about no pack or vote against your own initiative? That's what it's going to be on that little panel right there. This one I'm liking from Jeff and Kent. So, Ari, when you win the King County executive position as the write-in, how long will your speech be? Okay, Jeff, here's something funny. Last night I was helping some relatives of mine vote. And I always do it bipartisanly, mostly except with relatives where I'm like, no, guys, this person sucks, this, that. But at the same time, there was some pushback. There was some discussion. But a lot of times people just go, all right, Ari, I'm writing in you. Ari, I'm writing in you. I don't know how many positions I've been written in for on this ballot this time around. If people tell me a little bit farther in advance, I'll know to actually register for that position so we can find out how many votes I actually got. I got to make sure it's not a violation of my contract. But you have to register as a write-in candidate to see how many votes you actually get. Otherwise, there's just this bucket filled with other votes that just say other. Mickey Mouse, the Rocketeer, Darth Vader, Ari Hoffman, whatever it is that goes in there. So how long would my speech be? My speech would be long enough to encompass all the failures of the previous administration and what I'm going to do differently. Wait, I don't think people got that kind of time. Moses spoke for the entire book of Deuteronomy. I think it might beat that length. Longest rabbi speech in the history of the world. Ari, as the candidates say what the people want to hear, only do the opposite, says John in Auburn. You know what, John? You're not wrong. It's very few candidates. And in fact, I can name them on one hand in this race, but specifically, I'm saying vote for Jared Neuenhuis. Vote for Conrad Lee. Vote for candidates like that. We like those kind of candidates. That's who you have to vote for. This one from John Auburn. Ari, how many illegal vendors were there? How many illegal cerveza vendors were there? Most of them were selling hot dogs. Most of them were selling stadium-type food stuff.
Some of them had like the fruits and stuff like that as well. And there was an illegal merch guy there.
Right.
As well. But I wanted to go back to, what John was saying about the illegal cerveza vendors, and that ties into a text that we got from Johnny, member of the Big Mike Militia. What if the vendors are selling old fashions, asking for a friend? That's a great joke, and I appreciate the humor of both of those texts, but for me, that kind of underscores the same issue. Bars have to go through processes to be able to get a liquor license to be able to sell liquor. So, what's to stop somebody from just getting a Coleman cooler and opening up a cooler and just starting to sell like lukewarm road sodas to folks? That seems incredibly illegal and dangerous.
Yes.
I don't know if I want to buy like a can of something off of somebody off the street. That doesn't seem like a good idea, and that seems even more responsible than like the nasty hot dogs or the spoiled Euro meat that's been soaking in bleach or whatever. But what's to stop them?
Think about this for a second. If a bartender serves somebody they know is drunk and that person goes and gets in an accident, the bartender's liable. Who's going to be liable for that law here? Here's something else, by the way. If you get the illegal street alcohol, you might miss out on the great drink that Mike and I had in the stadium.
Right.
You remember we got that scotch and soda type drink that we had up in the stadium, which I think was mostly scotch and not so much soda?
Yeah. Pro tip, if you ever find yourself going to Lumen Field, I don't know if this is for other stadiums as well, but basically you can't order shots of straight alcohol. But what you can do is get a mixed drink. So in this case, Ari and I roll up to the bar. We go to get some whiskey, and 2 whiskeys, please. And they said, well, would you like soda or Coke? And I'm like, that's kind of not what I'm looking for, but I guess Coke a little bit. He's like, I got you.
Yes.
And he takes, he's like, whiskey. He gets out the gun. And Coke, just like a little whisper. He just barely feathered the button to just put a little float of Coke on there. And he's like, enjoy.
And I will say, by the way,
that's our life hack.
I've never had a Jameson and a smidgen of Coke before. And it was, as Mike would say, delightful.
Absolutely.
It gave it a little something extra, I might say. Normally, I don't like my Jameson with some Coca-Cola. But you know what? As Mike would say also, I'll allow it. When we come back, my friends, if the illegals are illegally getting SNAP benefits, but the Democrats said it was illegal for them to illegally be getting the SNAP benefits, how are they illegally getting the SNAP benefits? We'll explain when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570, KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder, I am still getting messages over on my social media asking for my voter recommendations. Guys, you have just over 3 hours to get those things in. Go to kvi.com. It's at the top of the page. It says Ari's election picks. If I didn't endorse in a race, that means I don't like either one of them, and vote for your dead grandfather or something like that, or vote for me. I don't care, but get to the polls and vote. There are a lot of important races you got to vote in.
There were a number of races that I just simply didn't vote.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm just like, no.
And by the way, I'll tell you something. For those of you who say you're wasting your vote, you're not wasting your vote. I'm going to tell you why. Because you actually see that somebody turned in the ballot, and you see that they didn't vote in that race, but they voted in other races, and you may see, you know what I'd love to see? If our Twitter polls are actually what happens in the mayoral race. Okay, Bruce Harrell won by 3. Or Katie Wilson won by 2, or whatever the case may be. But then you see the majority of voters didn't pick either of these morons. That might actually send a very clear, cogent message to people.
Yeah, like in my district, a lot of races, Democrats running unopposed, not getting my vote.
Right.
Even if you're running unopposed and you're the only one, nah.
And it's not because they're Democrats. It's because they suck.
Correct, yeah.
We got Democrats we like. Kevin Schilling. Go vote for Kevin Schilling, even though he's a Democrat. He's great. Out in Burien. Go vote for Peter Kwan. He's great. Go vote for him. It's not Democrat or Republican. It's terrible or common sense. That's where we're at now, guys. Okay, I promised you this story. We're going to do this story. Secretary Rawlings, over at the Department of Agriculture, is literally saying that when they asked for the SNAP data from all these different states, the blue state said, nope. And you say, well, what are you hiding then? If you don't have illegals on your program, why won't you give us the SNAP data? Then Kristi Noem comes out and says that terrorists, over 8 million people who are illegal aliens, were given social security numbers, including thousands of terrorists. Wait, I thought it was illegal. How are they getting the social security numbers? How are they getting the driver's licenses? How are they getting registered to vote? Guys, we got Trump in office. We got a Republican Congress. We got a Republican Senate. If we want to fix this voting mess, at least for federal elections, we have to do it now. If we want to investigate these states that are doing this fraudulent voter insanity, we have to do it now. Who knows the next time we're going to get a chance like this? When we come back, final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, plus we're getting election results from the East Coast. We will bring those to you live as they happen. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show's final hour free for all. Your calls, your texts, your thoughts, your stories, streaming live at KVI.com and the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves this election night, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, voter fraud in California. Was it just confirmed by the Trump administration? That plus a whole lot more. But before we get to any of that, it looks like we have our first election results of the night. Fox News is projecting that Democrat Abigail Spanberger is going to defeat Winsome Earl Sears in the Virginia governor's race. Now, it wasn't even close. Right now, we're looking at a 10-point blowout from what we have right now. That's not close. Now, here's the thing. Before you guys start thinking to yourself, oh, my God, it's over. We're all going to die. Democrats are going to win everything. You guys should know better than anybody here in Washington that what happens in Virginia doesn't mean that's going to happen in New York, doesn't mean that's going to happen here in Seattle. They have nothing to do with each other. Is there a little bit of, oh, they're running against Donald Trump and they're running against MAGA? Absolutely. But is that really a factor here in Seattle? Of course not. This one here, Republican versus Democrat, yeah, that's an interesting thing to look at. I like Winsome Earl Sears. I think she's a great candidate. I think that she was able to be painted by the media as a hardcore MAGA, whatever. And I think it's crazy that the NAACP, the National Associations of, excuse me, got something stuck in my throat there, of people of color, right? That one right there, that one of colored persons, excuse me, endorsed the white lady. we focus on that for a second, how far left that organization has gone. So, guys, I'm looking at this before you freak out. Okay, you lost the governor's race. Is it good news? No, it's not. Plus, Glenn Youngkin was term limited. You had a couple terms of Glenn Youngkin. Might be time to a refresher. This doesn't mean anything for anything else. What's going to happen is all night, everybody's going to be looking at their hazy crystal balls. Oh, I saw a monkey wing. Oh, I saw Dorothy. Oh, I saw Toto. But none of that is the clear picture of where they actually are. That's the stuff, guys, that you got to say, okay, what's actually happening in our area? Let's see. And here in Washington, it means even less because you know what's going to happen. You're going to get whatever results you get tonight, and then they could be totally backwards. Let's say it looks like Bruce Harrell's winning in a blowout tonight. What happens tomorrow when you get the ballots in? Oh, magically, all of a sudden, Katie Wilson is catching up. So don't read too much into this. Is this not great news? Yes, it's not great news. Am I spinning this? No. What happens in Virginia has nothing to do with what happens in New York and what happens here in Washington. If it's a clean sweep all night for all this, then there's a bigger discussion to be had about why. And we'll do that analysis for you. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Daniel in Kitsap. Daniel, what's going on?
Hi there. Thanks for taking my call. I'm an election observer out in Kitsap County. I just wanted to call in with public service announcement. If you're filling in your ballot, my recommendation as an election observer is that there's three things you want to avoid on there, and those are overvotes, undervotes, and write-ins. And, I personally used to, not vote in things that I didn't want to as a form of protest. But when I became an election observer, I saw what happens to those ballots. And so I always fill mine in all the way now. And just in case you're wondering what I'm talking about, when they send it in for tabulation, when your ballot is perfectly filled in all the way, it goes right through and it's in the count. And then that's what you see released at 8 p.m. tonight. All the ballots that have defects like that, they get set aside. And so you don't see them. You see them trickle in slowly over the next few days because they only work on those during business hours when they run an adjudication process, which is something where an election worker will manually review your ballot and make any necessary manual corrections. Based on, confirming that you really didn't mean to vote, for instance.
Let me interrupt you for a second there, Daniel, just to make sure I understand this. So what you're saying is you're forced to do these or your ballot takes longer to count. It's not that they chuck them or something like that. It's just it comes in later is what you're saying. Do they not get counted?
It's a different yeah. They everything has to be counted the right way, but it sends it through a different part of the process that has more steps and more manual involvement.
Gotcha. Okay, good tips. What else you got for us?
Well, I'd say one way that you can fill everything in on there, I'm out in Kitsap, okay? So I'd say if you're not sure what to put in there, go to KitsapRepublicans.com. There's sample ballots that are listed on there that look like your ballot that have recommendations for just about every race. So try to get everything filled in so that it goes right through and doesn't have as much manual touch points. That's the best way.
These are great tips. These are great tips, Daniel. I appreciate you calling in with all that.
All right.
All right, man. You take care. Thanks for your hard work tonight. Really appreciate you giving up your time to make sure that we have a fair and democratic process. Really do appreciate it. Appreciate you calling into the show to give us all that information. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Armin out on Vashon. What's going on? Home of the KVI Beach. What's going on, man?
Technically, I'm on Maury Island, not Vashon Island.
That's okay. We still love you. Yes. What's going on, man?
Yeah, I was telling Mike I have an argument in favor of for not voting for anybody in a given race if you don't like any of the choices, or especially if someone is running unopposed. So not voting. And the argument is that if later on somebody wants to recall that person for misbehaviors that are legally eligible for the recall petition, as I recall, the statute that governs a recall campaign requires that you get signatures on a petition to then put it on the ballot, kind of like the two-step process with an initiative. You got to get signatures, you got to get a certain number. That the threshold for the number of signatures on the petition to then get it on the ballot is 25%. The number of signatures you need is 25% of the number of votes cast for that position the last time.
All right, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop you right here, Armin, and let me tell you why. You are saying that you want less people to vote. So that way when you have to recall fewer people, that way when you have to recall somebody, assuming it gets past a judge in Washington state that actually allows you to do a recall process, you have to get less signatures when you get through that process?
Fewer signatures, yeah.
Okay,
now,
but you understand,
the next thing I was gonna say was,
you understand how hard that is to get in the first place rather than just getting a good candidate and running them the first time, right?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just saying. So, for instance, in the 34th district where I am, the two representative positions, they're running unopposed.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I say, if later down the line you wanted to recall those people, it would make it easier to do the recall if people didn't vote for those slots at all.
I see. So
Because
what you're
it's
saying
not
is,
gonna make any difference.
what you're saying is, if it's an unopposed thing, don't vote. Is what you're saying. So that way, if you want to recall the person down the road, it might be easier. Appreciate the call, Armin. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show? You give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Looking out here's a poll from Fox News, because this is on the ballot this time too, with regard to transgender rights out in Virginia. The majority of Virginia voters say transgender rights have gone too far, 52%. 23% not enough, and 22% say about right. That means the majority of people are saying no, absolutely not. Polls are closed now in New Jersey, and I'm not sure about New York yet. I assume so, but I have to double check and see if they're actually closed. Hang on. Taking a quick check here. No, they are still open. We got another hour in New York. We're not going to get a result for New York while we're on air tonight, but we will probably get the New Jersey. We hope we're going to get the New Jersey results while we're on air. Just a reminder that Washington ballots, the first drop is going to be around 8:05 or so. I'll make sure to post whatever I can on social media, so that way you get all the updates and don't have to go looking through King County elections or whatever your county's elections results are. I'll make sure to post them as much as I can. However, right now, with regards to New York, President Trump endorsed Cuomo for mayor of New York City. These guys hate each other, absolutely hate each other. Do you remember all the insanity during COVID? But why is Trump endorsing Cuomo? Because he's saying, look, guys, MAGA guys, you can't vote for Sliwa. Voting for Sliwa is just throwing away your vote. Right now, you have Cuomo, you have Mamdani. Mamdani is an actual terrorist-supporting communist. That's who you want? In fact, Cuomo said, he didn't endorse me. He told you not to vote for Mamdani, is what he's saying. He's telling you not to vote for Sliwa and throw away your vote. Look, if Cuomo gets into office, he's going to be fighting with Donald Trump all the time. Just watch. It's not like they're going to be best friends after this. They weren't before. There's a lot of bad blood between these guys. But the danger here is Mamdani. That's the problem. And now there's some craziness with the ballots. Now, I think that people don't understand how the ballots work, but it's easy for them to get confused if you don't know the New York system. A lot of states have this system, by the way. You can be endorsed by multiple parties. So what it looks like is Mamdani's on the ballot twice because he was also endorsed by this Workers' Party. And Cuomo's way down on the bottom in a corner all by himself. You may think that's favoritism. Well, the interesting thing is the New York Post has a story saying Mamdani voted for himself not on the Democrat part of the ballot where he's endorsed, but on the Workers' Party, the Communist Party. That's the one he checked the box for. Saying the quiet part out loud, right? In addition to that, there were also some bomb threats at some locations on the East Coast today. And Mamdani decided to blame Donald Trump for that? Yeah, he literally did this morning.
Incredibly concerning. And I think that it is an illustration of the attacks we're seeing on our democracy. Sometimes they're blatant and explicit in the manner of these bomb threats. And we have to understand this as part of the general approach the Trump administration has taken to trying to intimidate voters with baseless allegations of voter fraud as a means of trying to repress the voice of Americans across this country.
I don't know if he's going to get that question again today, but the general approach the Trump administration has taken to try and intimidate voters, unless we heard him incorrectly, what in the world is he talking about?
I left that part in because I left that part in from Fox because that's just insane. Absolutely insane that they would actually, that he would say, oh, Donald Trump's responsible. It was some teenage kid, but sure, let's blame Donald Trump. First of all, if anybody's calling him bomb threats, I'm going to look at the guy who has no problem with globalizing the intifada. That might be the guy. Oh, am I racial profiling with that one? I'm sorry. He's the guy who rapped about how much he's in love with the Holy Land Five, the guys who were convicted federally of funneling money to Hamas. If anybody's calling it bomb threats, Donald Trump is not my first call. First of all, Donald Trump would tweet, or I'm sorry, he would truth the bomb threats. That's number one. That's how you know it wasn't Donald Trump. But two, I'd look at the guy who likes terrorism. Caroline Leavitt was responding to this in the White House today.
Zoran Mamdani blamed the president for bomb threats and intimidation at polling locations. He said, quote, part of the general approach of the Trump administration has taken to intimidate voters with baseless allegations of voter fraud as a means of trying to repress the voice of Americans across this country. I want to give you a chance to respond to that.
Yeah, I saw those comments from Mamdani. I think they are completely irresponsible, and they are based on zero evidence. And I think this is just another example of how the Democrat Party, unfortunately, stands for nothing. All they stand against is President Donald Trump. And I think it's quite sad to see that we have someone at the top of the ticket on an election day today saying such things about the president when he obviously had absolutely nothing to do with those threats.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's just ridiculous. And now you know what a Mamdani administration is going to be like. For those of you who are worried about the direction New York's about to go in, I will remind you of the conversation, which is up now at KVI.com, we had yesterday with New York City Council member Ina Vernikoff, who was telling us about the massive amounts of people who are energized to go vote against Mamdani right now. How there are tons of people who are doing that because otherwise there's going to be a fire sale in New York. People are already talking to brokers. I did like some of the memes I saw today, which are naming Mamdani Realtor of the Year in Florida, Realtor of the Year in Israel, Realtor of the Year in Texas, because that's what's going to happen. People are going to flee New York if this guy wins. Corporations, companies are going to flee New York. It's going to be a shell of its former self. And then there are people who can't leave. Generations of their family there, jobs that are there. Are the jobs still going to be there? And those people are going to be left behind and have a harder time winning. You know, the reason that Mamdani is the favorite to win? Because right now, if you look at the math, Mamdani's polling at 50 some odd. You've got Cuomo polling at 46, and you've got Sliwa taking away a whole chunk of the vote. If Sliwa wasn't in the race, we wouldn't even be talking about Mamdani. We'd be saying, oh, great, we get Cuomo again. How could you possibly elect a sex pest who killed people's grandparents during COVID? That's what we'd be discussing right now. That's what we'd be talking about. But unfortunately, all anybody could talk about is Mamdani. And because all anybody could talk about is Mamdani, you made him as popular as AOC because all of us couldn't shut up about this guy. There's no such thing as bad publicity. My friends in New York, I really hope you all voted today. I really hope you did. Like I said, when I was in New York 2 weeks ago and I was there, the rabbi of the synagogue, rabbis don't typically talk about politics, was encouraging everybody to get out and vote because of how important this election is. There's a lot of people in New York who feel helpless because a lot of people commute in from the suburbs that are not part of New York City to work in New York City. Their jobs get taxed in New York City, and they get no say whatsoever in who's going to be running New York City. Those are the kind of people who are going to leave first. I'll also remind you of this. Lee Zeldin lost the New York gubernatorial race by, 400,000 votes? And what was it? About 450,000 people moved to Florida during COVID. That's what happens when you leave and you surrender a battlefield. And then it's harder to win the next time. I don't fault the people who leave. I get it. But it makes it harder for those of us who stay behind. And you think the Democrats are going to give up? Well, you think they're not going to try and win Florida when DeSantis isn't governor anymore? It doesn't matter that he won by 20-plus points last time. They're going to try and take it back. You may think it's deep red right now. Things change, my friends. And the Democrats don't stop running for office just because they got blown out in one election. Florida was purple until COVID. We're not going to find out until the next couple elections if it actually stayed deep red or if those were flukes because of Trump, because of DeSantis, because of COVID, because of who knows what. We don't know yet. We all like to say Florida's free America. We don't know it's actually going to stay that way. We hope it does. We're not sure it's actually going to. And right now we're watching a guy who's a communist terrorist sympathizer. This is a guy who might be the next mayor of the biggest capitalism center in our country. Really, really scary to think about. We're going to keep an eye on the election results as they come in. Right now, the only ones we're seeing are for Virginia. Those do not look good. Looking in New Jersey, we can't call anything yet. We're not even there yet.
It's all too close to call, and the polls in New York close in 40 minutes.
You're right. So we're not going to see those during the show, but make sure you are following me on social media, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, The Hofffather over on Twitter, so you can get the results tonight. We go to the Warrior Injury Law studio line. Take a call from Rich in Maple Valley. Rich, what's going on?
Hey, Ari, thank you for taking my call. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. What's up, man?
I'm calling in response to the gentleman that was talking about not voting for certain people just because they're running unopposed.
Yeah.
Well, that leaves the thing wide open where when it does the ballot counting process of the secondary part where they do a manual thing, that's not to stop anybody from writing in somebody's name on that. So what I do is I will go ahead and mark the bubble down at the bottom, and then I'll do the write-in part where it says where you on the line where you write in, and I will say none. That way, it shows that now that can't be changed whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go, and also it shows how many people didn't even want to vote for a candidate who is running unopposed. Rich, appreciate the call, Appreciate the tips, appreciate the advice. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show continues, including has the Trump administration exposed illegals and fraud in the California voting system, especially with the propositions they're considering right now. We'll discuss when we come back, but first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast right now on the Ari Hoffman Show. I do love that over the weekend, California governor and presidential wannabe candidate Gavin Newsom attempted to shame President Donald Trump for hosting a Great Gatsby-themed party during the government shutdown. Gavin, Booby, need I remind you of a location called the French Laundry? That's right, that uber-exclusive, very expensive restaurant that while you closed all the other restaurants and told nobody else to go out for dinner or run their business during COVID, you had them open for you. To make matters worse, you had dinner inside while you were forcing other people to do it outside. To make things even worse than that, you were having dinner with the California Health Board, who were the ones telling everybody they weren't allowed to be doing the very thing they were caught doing. And you want to criticize Donald Trump? Look, not great optics having a party like that during a shutdown. Absolutely not. But you are the last one who should be calling it out, Gavin. When Gavin runs for president, the question is everybody going to remember this stuff? Or are they just going to, kick it down the road and say, he's learned a lot. He's good looking and, he's got his act together and he speaks good and he talks good. Yeah, you might have other problems in California, though. So you have this issue in California where they're talking about gerrymandering. But if they're voting on the redistricting in California, how do you know that the people who are voting on the redistricting can actually vote in California? In the White House press room today, reporters were asking Caroline Leavitt about how secure California's elections are, especially the mail-in ballots.
So in this vein, does the White House still plan to issue an executive order banning mail-in voting, and what legal authority do you have to do that?
The White House is working on an executive order to strengthen our elections in this country and to ensure that there cannot be blatant fraud, as we've seen in California with their universal mail-in voting system. It's absolutely true that there's fraud in California's elections. It's just a fact. It is just a fact. They have a universal mail-in voting system, which we know is ripe for fraud. And if you want to deny that, I'm happy to provide you all of the evidence for it. I'd be glad to send that to you after this briefing.
Rigged.
Fraudulent ballots that are being mailed in the names of other people, in the names of illegal aliens who shouldn't be voting in American elections. There's countless examples, and we'd be happy to provide them. As for executive action the White House is taking, yes, we are looking into that. And like any executive order, of course, any executive order the president signs is within his full executive authority and within the confines of the law.
So think about this for a second. They have motor voter laws. Right off the bat, they have motor voter laws. That means people are registered to vote who are not legally in the country because they're allowed to get driver's licenses because they're illegal aliens. And when they register for their license or they register for their registration, just like what happens here in Washington, they are now registered to vote. A little smile on your face is this clip I found from the West Wing. When people were talking about Mamdani's name being on the ballot twice, it reminded me of this clip from the West Wing from the Election Day episode for the second term of Jed Bartlett. Give a listen.
You're Josh Lyman, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen your picture online. Can I ask you something?
Sure.
Bartlett's on the ballot for the Democratic Party and for the Statehood Party. It's okay that I voted for him in both columns, right?
No, you can't vote for him in two columns.
I already did.
Your ballot's going to be invalidated.
What the hell for?
You're only allowed to vote once.
He's on the ballot twice.
He's on the ballot. More than that, he's on the ballot as the Liberal Party nominee.
I'm saying I'm for statehood.
Me too, and yours is a vote we didn't get.
I'm so sorry to interrupt. Did I hear you say that you're supposed to vote for the president in both columns?
No. No, you can vote for the president in whatever column you want, but you can only vote once.
He's right.
Yes. Yes.
And I'll tell you a secret for a shortcut. If you just say vote for one Democrat and leave all the rest of the boxes blank, then you voted for all the Democrats.
Yes. No. It doesn't. You can't vote for a party, you have to vote for a person.
Well, I think you're wrong.
I'm not.
I left all but one box blank.
Well, then you voted for none but one candidate.
Nuts.
Did you vote for the president? Was the president the one box?
Oh, who remembers?
It was a minute and a half ago.
Don't be rude.
I'm sorry. Thank you for voting.
Excuse me.
Yes, what? Yes. Yes, hello.
You're who I think you are, right?
I can be anybody you want.
That's funny.
Thank you.
I saw you getting run over by those people.
Just part of the job, man.
I guess you hear some pretty silly questions.
Well, I'm just worried because they all tried to vote for Bartlett, and if this keeps up, we're headed toward the biggest electoral upset in history. Nobody's going to be able to figure out why.
Right, well, it's the same thing with my parents. I tell them just rank the candidates in order of preference.
No.
Mr. Lyman, voted for your boy in all 3 boxes.
No, listen to me. Your ballot is invalid. So is yours. Punch the box next to the candidate you prefer once. Nothing else.
I'm sorry, one more thing.
Yes?
I have a message from Toby Ziegler.
What?
I have a message from Toby Ziegler.
You know Toby?
He says $10.
I see. You guys are a little troupe. Little acting troupe with a U.
Yes, sir, we are. Can I give you a card?
No.
Mr. Ziegler said you were a little edgy on election days. So, just to show there are no hard feelings, how about if I go down there and vote for the president right now?
As a matter of fact, that would be nice.
No problem. Do you happen to know if I need to be, I don't know, pre-registered or something?
Yes, you do. It's funny to me that the guy who's being harassed by everybody, and that is a Democrat who cares about voting legally. How far the parties have switched in all these years. He cares about you filling out your ballot correctly. Right now, we are getting some new updates. Right now, the governor's race in New Jersey is still too close to call. So when we come back from this next break, what we're going to do is we're going to check the election results. I think we have a few more coming out of Virginia, which we'll bring to you, plus a secret spy mission I'm going on tonight. Tell you all about where I'm going when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KBI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Just a reminder to download the KVI app so that way you can enter our latest contest where we're giving away two tickets to see The Running Man at Pacific Place on November 10th. That's 4 days before the movie opens in theaters. You get to see it with me, Mike, and young Zach. All you have to do is download the KVI app and click that little button that says Enter to Win so you can get 2 tickets to an advanced screening of The Running Man in theaters, Dolby Cinema, 4DX Premium Large Format, and IMAX on November 14th. Let's take a look at the election results right now.
Talk Radio 570 KVI. Breaking news on the Ari Hoffman Show.
So we have Winsome Earl Sears, the Republican, has lost in Virginia. Also, the Republican candidate for lieutenant governor has lost in Virginia. That's what I'm getting according to the Fox News decision desk right now.
Spanberger's giving an acceptance speech right now with a podium that says governor-elect.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's pretty much in hand.
It wasn't even close, guys. 10-point different. That's not even close. Now, what's interesting is that you have Mickey Sherrill, who's the Democrat nominee for governor in New Jersey, and Jack Citrelli, I got to remember how to say that name, who is the...
Citronella.
He's not that. Yeah, I almost fell for that, Mike. He's not that. He is now too close to call between the two of them. So we're going to be watching those votes. We'll see if we get any results before the end of the show. A reminder that the polls in New York do not close until 6 o'clock our time, which means you're not going to see results till after that, which means that's when we're off air. I'll post whatever I get on my social media when I get it. The polls here in Washington, you're not going to see your first ballot drop until around 8:05 p.m. And don't forget, then there's the vote tomorrow at 4, and the day after that at 4, and the day after that at 4. So I'll make sure to be posting these things on my social media. Where am I going tonight? And in fact, I'm going undercover. I am going to hear Kamala Harris speak tonight at Benaroya Hall. Why am I going? The Looney Tune Hamasniks have already targeted it for protests. I want to remind everybody that Kamala Harris was on their side. Kamala Harris, in her book, which I unfortunately bought and read, talked about how much she disliked Bibi Netanyahu, but tried to straddle that line of I support Israel, but I don't support Israel doing this, that, and the other thing, but I support Israel. She was on their side. Kamala Harris now is showing you how much she was on the activist side. She was on Jon Stewart's podcast just the other day, and she was praising Zoran Mamdani.
We have so many stars in our party. There are so many stars. And let's not be afraid of them. You talk about Mamdani. I mean, he's exciting this group of people who otherwise don't think of themselves as being aligned or a part or even seen by the system. You just look at the range of what we have. So many. Jasmine Crockett, who I just talked to recently. I mean, we have so many stars.
These are your stars. So many you can't even name them. So many you named 2. And let's remember, if it wasn't Cuomo in this race and it wasn't Sliwa taking the votes away from Cuomo, we wouldn't even be talking about Zoran Mamdani. It would be, the socialist is going to get crushed. He's going to win by default because Sliwa is taking votes away from Cuomo unless there's some miracle at the last minute. That's what's going to happen. However, we do have a preview of likely what I'm going to hear tonight while at Benaroya Hall listening to Kamala Harris.
My fellow Americans, words have many meanings, and sometimes instead of conveying our meaning, they can suggest other meanings.
When we talk about the children of the community, they are the children of the community.
Well, we are the United States of America because we are united. And we are states.
Talking about the significance of the passage of time. Right? The significance of the passage of time. So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time.
Whatever we have in store cannot be known. The past was once the future. The future is
I should say unknown.
We got to take this stuff seriously as you are, because you have been forced to have to take it seriously.
Obesity is a serious disease, and it needs to be taken seriously.
You need to get to go and need to be able to get where you need to go to do the work and get home.
I hope that clarifies the issue, and this can be the last word on those words.
Certain issues are just settled.
Clearly we're not.
No, that's right, and that's why I do believe that we are living, sadly, in real unsettled times.
Why am I doing this to myself tonight? Why am I doing this to myself? Because I want to see if the protesters show up. That's why I'm on the riot patrol. That's why I'm there. I want to see if the protesters actually show up. And if not, I'll have some fun updates for you guys tomorrow about the people who were there. Mike, what do you think? You think we're going to see the head of the Democrat Party, Shasti Conrad, down there? I think she'll what, you think she's watching election results tonight, or do you think she's kissing butt to Kamala Harris?
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is going to be pretty anemic, I think, because, like, I think Kamala's time has come and gone.
Yeah.
Aside from being a featured sideshow on the Ari Hoffman show, Deep Thoughts with Kamala Harris. But, like, who is this for?
Well, so that's the thing. It's for her book tour. Now, I think we're going to see something fascinating tonight. And, Mike, here's the other reason I want to go. If that's a packed room, they're still on the Kamala train. If that is not a packed room, they don't want to give her money. They don't want to give her anything else. And that woman is never running for government again. Why? Because if you can't get money out of the Seattle cash machine, then you ain't running for office ever again. I think her political career is over. Right? I think a lot of you think her political career is over. But a politician who got as far as vice president is always thinking, if I had more than 101 or 107 or whatever her book is called days, I might have actually won. That's what she's thinking. And this is a test trial. Look at the city she's going to. She's going to all the Democrat strongholds. If she doesn't have support in the Democrat strongholds, she don't have support to run for office. That's going to be the most fascinating thing to see tonight, and how empty Benaroya Hall is. Now, I've been in Benaroya Hall when it's full for Adam Sandler. I've been in Benaroya Hall where it's empty for a relative's wedding, where they still invited a few hundred people, but that's not going to fill the thousands of seats in Benaroya Hall. Yeah, they got a good deal because it was like a Monday or something. So anyway, I've been to Benaroya when it's full. I've been to Benaroya when it's empty. I am so curious to see what it's going to look like tonight. I am really, really curious. And maybe I'll have some fun social media stuff for you of the insanity outside, the insanity inside, if there's going to be insanity. And the question is, how many people can I get my picture taken with who don't realize it's me? Because I'm going undercover. So I think that's going to be half the fun of this. Only good news to wrap up the show. When we come back, your good news headlines put a smile on your face heading into your commute on election night. We'll give you that, plus so much more when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news headlines, just want to give you the advance notice of the KVI Auburn Veterans Day Parade on November 8th. That's right, my friends. As one of the largest Veteran Day parades in the country, this proud tradition honors our nation's veterans and active military with over 150 units, marching bands, military vehicles, and more along Main Street. Activities are going to be there all day, and don't miss this powerful tribute to those who serve. Plus, the best part of this, Mike's going to be there, Zach's going to be there, Phil's going to be there, Mr. KVI himself is going to be there, the KVI van going to be there? We hope so.
Yes.
Yes, KVI van's going to be
our fully staffed radio station will be there, and we'll be there along with our friends with Northwest News Radio and 101.5 Hank FM. The entire Lotus Seattle crew will be out driving and marching in the parade as we walk down Main Street to celebrate our veterans.
Exactly. So it's going to be an awesome event. You should not miss it. This is where I get FOMO every single year, where right after the Sabbath, I sign on and I look at Mike's pictures and I go, that looked awesome. They had the best time. So don't be like me. Make sure you can be at the parade. Make sure you be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. That's Saturday, November 8th. Make sure you are there along Main Street. More details throughout the week. Also, don't forget to download the KVI app, because on the KVI app, you can enter to win tickets to an advanced screening of The Running Man starring Glenn Powell. And the best part is you get to go with me, Mike, and Zach from The Morning Ride to Pacific Place on November 10th, 4 days before the movie is released in theaters, Dolby Cinema, 4D, premium large format, and IMAX on November 14th. So make sure you go to the Apple or Android app stores, download the KVI app, and once you do, click to enter to win the fantabulous prizes of going to see an advanced screening of The Running Man. Speaking of apps, by the way, Sonic is giving away free Coca-Cola every single day with an app deal over on their app, which is great, by the way. I love fountain soda. Fountain soda is better than regular soda. And I would say I would put that up against anything. I actually even like it better than the glass bottle type if you've got your formula correct. If you messed up the proportions, that's bad news. Somehow, McDonald's gets the Coke right every single time. Don't know how they do that. Meanwhile, speaking of McDonald's, President Trump has invited the Los Angeles Dodgers to the White House after they won their second consecutive World Series on Saturday, knocking out the Blue Jays in the 7th game after extra innings in the World Series. I've never cheered for the Dodgers in my life. I hate the Dodgers. If not for the Dodgers, I'd be a Dodgers fan. By that I mean, if they hadn't left New York and moved to the West Coast, then I'd probably be a Dodgers fan because my family's from Brooklyn. But I'll tell you this, we became Mets fans. And the life of suffering I have had since, it is all because of you Dodgers. But I did not want Canada to win. And I definitely didn't want the Blue Jays to win after they beat our Mariners. So for me, I wasn't cheering for the Dodgers, but I was happy to hear that the Blue Jays lost. That is satisfactory to me. And plus, now we beat our 51st state, and we showed them who's boss in baseball. And if Canada had won the World Series, I know that no other countries play, but if Canada had won America's pastime this year, you know what the media would have done? The media would have been like, oh, it's all because of Donald Trump and tariffs, blah, 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 yakety schmackety. Yeah. Thank God the Blue Jays lost. I'm happy about that. Good news all around.
But my goodness, what a hell of a series. What a hell of a game. What a hell of a season. Goodness. Yeah. I mean, like, I've never been interested in baseball since, like, the 2001 season, back when the Mariners were good. So I really kind of jumped on the bandwagon and followed the Mariners. And even then, I kept watching because like that World Series was one for the books. Multiple extra innings games, going to Game 7 and then going into extra innings. I mean, criminally, like by the time we got the end, I'm like, I know who that guy is. I know who that guy is. It was really interesting to have some of that passion for baseball rekindled. And for us here at home in Seattle, the momentum has only got to continue, and we'll see what happens for next year.
Exactly. I'm excited for it. And I'll tell you, speaking of next year, perfect segue, Mike. The Mariners are accepting tickets. They open ticket sales for next season for groups and for season tickets and all that.
Smart move.
Exactly it is. And I already looked at the schedule, and my Mets are coming to town. And the best part is, Mike, you know the absolute best part? They're all weekday games, which means I can go to Wait a minute. They haven't put out the times yet. Some of these are going to be in the afternoon. I mean, I know some of them are going to be in the evening, but some of them are going to be in the afternoon, and I'm going to have a problem. Either way, my Mets are coming to town. That only happens like once every 5 to 7 years. Well, my friends, that's going to do it for us today. We are going to keep following the election results tonight. You can find that on my social media, Ari Hoffman Official on Facebook and Instagram, the Father over on Twitter. We'll be back tomorrow with more insane stories and more exciting guests. You've been listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.